Welcome back to Making the Case. 60 men and women currently behind bars could soon be freed thanks to 3 former NYPD detectives. On Monday, Queens DA Melinda Katz asked the New York Supreme Court to toss their convictions because of the officers' misconduct. 34 cases were dismissed because of the work of former NYPD Detective Kevin Desormeau. He was found guilty of perjury after lying about witnessing drug deals that never actually happened. Former Detective Sasha Cordoba was fired by the NYPD after pleading guilty to fabricating the facts of a gun possession arrest. 20 cases were dismissed based on her role as an essential witness. And finally, former Detective Oscar Sandino pled guilty to federal sexual assault charges involving multiple arrestees. 6 cases were dismissed because of him. Joining me now to discuss is Cristine Soto DeBerry, founder and executive director of the Prosecutors Alliance. Welcome back to the show, Cristine.
Thank you for having me. A pleasure.
First, your reaction to the headline that 60 convictions have been thrown out because of lying cops.
I wish I could say I was surprised, but we see this around the country. In my time in San Francisco and not countless cities around this country, we see that the compromised police officers have created real jeopardy for individuals accused of crimes. I suppose the good thing is that we're seeing prosecutors step into that moment and try to right those wrongs, but it is very difficult to unring the bell when somebody has been convicted of a crime, spent time in jail or prison, been put on probation or parole. Those are minutes, days, and years of their lives they don't get back.
Well, so you mentioned that prosecutors are doing their jobs in terms of trying to right the wrongs, but what about in the prosecution of these cases where these officers lie? Could prosecutors do more there before it even gets to a conviction?
There's certainly always more that prosecutors can do to ensure our system is operating fairly. Being aggressive about attaining the lists of officers that have misconduct in their history is critically important. Sharing that with the defense is essential and required. But also doing the kinds of backward looks that the officers are doing here is very important. When a bad officer comes to light, it requires more than just looking at the immediate case in front of the office. It requires looking at all of the entire body of work of that officer to see if there are other individuals whose cases may have been compromised by their dishonesty or misconduct. Doing that thorough look back is critical. And then obviously prosecuting officers who commit those crimes must be part of that evaluation.
Well, now's a good time to mention that we did reach out to the NYPD for comment. They responded saying, quote, "None of the officers identified in the letter currently work for the NYPD. The NYPD will fully cooperate with any district attorney who conducts a review of cases involving these former officers." Cristine, is that enough? I mean, these officers were able to get away with their misconduct for years. Your reaction to their statement?
Obviously, accountability has to be part of what we discuss here. That they lost their employment is appropriate. If they committed crimes beyond those that were on display here, there should be consequences for that action as well. And as I said, that the district attorneys, both in the state of New York and anywhere else that these officers work, need to do a thorough evaluation of the entire body of work of those officers to give relief to individuals that were direct victims of those officers. And then they need to establish systems to ensure that they can catch as many of those instances as possible, that the police departments that they work with are giving them up-to-date, accurate, fully transparent information about problems that people in their force have, so that the prosecutors can avoid these kinds of trap doors that get set when a police officer commits misconduct.
Well, this isn't the first time a New York DA has been forced to toss convictions because of an NYPD detective. In April, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez dismissed more than 50 drug convictions after the lead detective was found guilty of perjury. How do you begin to fix a problem that appears to clearly be ingrained into the culture?
Well, a lot of the obligation falls to the police departments themselves. They have to be doing better screening of the individuals that they hire. They have to have real consequences for officers that step over the line. That includes more than just being on paid suspension. It includes terminating individuals who commit the kinds of offenses we see here. A police officer who has perjured himself in court can no longer be a witness in a case, can no longer make an arrest in a case, and really has no opportunity to provide meaningful work for a police department, a prosecutor, or a courtroom proceeding from that point forward. They need to be separated from that employment as a result of those actions. And I think if we can have real accountability, hopefully we can start to transform some of that culture. But without it, a bad apple rots the whole barrel.
Cristine, I've got 90 seconds, but I really want you to talk about SB 299, the bill that the Prosecutors Alliance has tried to pass.
Thank you. We have a bill in the California legislature, the first of its kind in the country, that would ensure victims of police violence are entitled to support from the state's victim compensation fund the way victims of other violence are. It's critically important that we help people heal and recover from this kind of trauma, just as we would from any other kind of violence. It's in front of the legislature, and we're hopeful that they will do the right thing and give this support to predominantly Brown and Black community members that suffer at the hands of police in violent situations, sometimes even losing their lives.
And this story is evidence of that. Cristine Soto DeBerry, founder and executive director of the Prosecutors Alliance, thank you for coming on tonight.